Hi, y'all. Welcome, Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. Happy New Year, 2017, 2016 in the bag, in the books for whatever it was worth. It's come and gone, politically speaking, floods. I mean, tragedies and everything is come and gone, and we welcome in a new year. So, by the way, God bless y'all. Thank y'all for another great year in 2016. I just think 2016, 17 is going to be even better. It's going to be an awesome year. And you got to have the right attitude to approach the year. So, matter of fact, Brandon, I think you announced I'm going to be speaking at the Bayou Church off of College Saloon, 6:30 on Wednesday night. It's open to the public. Anybody can come. If you want to see all my warts, you want to see all my failures, come Wednesday. You're invited. It's open to the public. It's a men's night, just men. And the Bayou does a great job. It's a really, really cool church. It's a great church. And Pastor Mike Walker and the gang, they do a great job. So I'll be there on Wednesday night. They're feeding you Dino's Pizza. So you come out there and feed you. If there's a group of somebody from another church want to go, my suggestion would be call the church, tell them you come and make sure we got plenty of pizza for you. But that's on Wednesday night at 6:30. If you notice, Brandon, I guess you noticed. You were the first one to notice it, struggling with the voice and the sinus medicine. But that's all we've dealt with the holidays besides having a good time. Walker was down. Out of 11 straight days, he was in the bed like 7 or 8 of them. And we finally had to go get something strong. And Maddie had a couple of seizures, nothing real big, but still, she fought that. And all of a sudden, I get it coming back to work. And I've been throwing. Whatever drugs my wife's telling me to throw in me, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. Because Nurse Ratchet, I'm just trying to keep a shot from being stuck in my fanny. Okay, that's what I'm trying to. Because I feel like when she does that, sometimes she kind of twists it a little bit.
Well, she
kind of sends the message? Yeah, because I say something stupid, Brandon. Okay,
yes.
But I should say it after the shot, not before.
You say one of those moonisms.
Yeah, I'm one got a moonism. That's exactly what happens. It's one of those things. But anyway, I'm fighting a sinus mess. I'm taking whatever she tells me to take, and it's amazing. Sinus stuff gets down in the chest for a lot of people. And I've had pneumonia before, but sometimes when I stop that, it goes up. It just fills everything out. But I think I'm going to be fine for Wednesday night. I'm actually a little bit better than I was a couple of days ago. So hopefully I'll keep getting better. But I'm planning on being in it. So Wednesday night at the Bayou in Lafayette on College Saloon. It's a men's night out. It's a great, great event. The last time I've been, Coach, they always have great speakers, not counting me. I don't know how I fell in it, but not counting me. Coach Robichaux was there one night. He was awesome, but they've always had some really good speakers. But like I said, they decided to go down a notch. So anyway, 844-766-6607. Hickson has that hotline. There's a ton of stuff. 17 more days before the worst president by far in the history of the United States, the most anti-American president's gone. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. I hope we make it. I just hope we can make it that far. Today's also it's glad I'm pumped up and happy, but it's kind of a sad day for me, too. CB Ferguson died 1 year ago today. And, boy, we miss CB. I'd have loved for CB to have been around with us during this last year because it was a very interesting year. And I just think he would have offered us a lot of insight. He'd have been very disappointed in what Bell Edwards and the gang down in Baton Rouge are doing with taxes. They're trying to raise the heck out of them. It's almost sinful and shame. Jim Beam once again become a very liberal reporter. Still trying to tell people Scott Angel was a good vote, Jay Dawson was a good vote, pushing taxes down our throat out of Lake Charles area, and so is the Gannett newspapers, and so is the Advocate in Baton Rouge. We'll get to that. Attorney General takes a swing at New Orleans over violent crime. Violent crime's been bad there. That's some more shootings down the first of the year. It's a shame. But anyway, we got a lot of stuff to cover. But I did want to mention CB because he meant so much to me as a person, to a lot of people. I did text his wife this morning, and I know she's probably having a tough time, and I told her I was praying for her and pray for her because today's a tough. Also, today is a swearing in of congressmen and senators. I know Clay Higgins is going to be in. John Kennedy, we lose John as well. We'd actually lose John. John's still going to be a great source, but John will be sworn in. John Kennedy, our state treasurer, so he will resign as state treasurer today. And I guess, Brandon, he's going to be sworn in at noon, 11 o'clock Central Time, but noon Eastern Time. Mm-hmm. For you people in Balkanville, they're an hour ahead of us. That's why we say 12 Eastern and 11 Central. But and by the way, I did get a Brandon, just to let you know, I did get a text from the people wanting to be on this week, just to talk about the week and the swearing in and things of that nature. I did not get a time back from him, but we expect to hear from John Kennedy, who would now be Senator John Kennedy. So him and Bill Cassidy would be the United States senators. So just to let you know what's going on, like I said, sad day for me in a way, but you lose. Boy, there's a lot of institutional knowledge. One CB was better than 27 John Ilarios. One CB was better than 142 Mike Me shows. That because he was sincere and honest about it. I'm just telling you. One CB was better than all those guys put together, the ones especially that screw our state up. You can combine Francis Thompson and John Ilario, and CB was a better man than both of those guys put together. And just he was. And it's a shame that we still don't have him here. It really is. So anyway, it's a sad day. It's a great day because good Lord gave me another one, but it's also a sad day to look back and remember my good friend C.B. Fagostin. I mean, just such a smart guy. He did the things because he really cared for the state. Never got paid. I did send him some Mellow Joy coffee. And I did drop him some Cane River pecans. And by the way, still do that for him.
Those pecans, 2 of them did not make it out the house. By the way,
I was going to ask you. Brandon got his a little later than everybody else.
And they still didn't make it out past the new year.
You serious?
I'm serious. We had...
What did you end up getting? The white chocolate?
The white chocolate and the honey glazed. Honey glazed is my favorite. White chocolate is my wife's favorite.
Well, let me tell you something. It was funny. We actually got our house ready, and we had at least 4 get-togethers, mostly families. Mm-hmm. There was Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the week before. We had something Thursday, but I think it was Christmas Eve. Another family from Monroe came in.
Yeah.
A lady by the man, it was Rosalind Janway, comes into my house and said, I didn't get no Cane River pecans. Well, check this out. I only had 1 box of those honey glazed.
Yeah.
So I put them out there, them in the white chocolate. I said, here, help yourself. Yeah. She did. She took the honey glaze, closed them up, and put them in a purse.
Oh, I got one for you.
I'm not making it up. She took I got 1 pecan out of that. That's why I was asking if you had any. I was going to stop by and say hi to you.
I got one for you. My mother-in-law was in town. Super awesome lady. She was in town, though. She sees the pecans, and she sees there are some left. She comes up to me, and she says, hey, would you like some pecans? I said, yeah, I'll take a couple. She said, I figured I'd offer them to you before I eat the rest of them.
Well, Miss Janway took them all. I thought she was going to take a few to eat. Took the whole dang can. Oh. So, think about that. The whole thing. So, from now on, I told Tanya when we put Cane River pecans out for anything, we're going to put them out in the bowl. A few at a time. So, anyway, it's just one of those things. But anyway, we had a lot of get-togethers. By the way, one other thing, because I got a lot of stuff to talk about. We'll get to it. All right, Brandon, you gave some reports on my fishing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Christmas Eve. Remember I've bragged about shepherds?
Yes.
And you lease a pond just like you would lease a hunting trip, a hunting lease. It's a fishing lease. And it's in Maurice, Louisiana. My good friend, Mr. Chris, they do a wonderful job. I've been telling you about this place for a long time. Well, Christmas Day, everybody shoots out of town after we have the family over. So I'm sitting there looking at myself in the mirror, which is not a pretty sight. So I said, you know what? I got a little bit of time. I ran out to Shepherd's. And you look on the stockapond.com because he got one of the biggest fish hatcheries in the state, if not the biggest. So, Brandon, I eased out there by myself. In 2 hours and 20 minutes, I caught 49 bass that average over 2 pounds. That's the truth. And I didn't hardly move the boat. Okay. So, Monday, we caught 16. I went to this place where you fish the tide. A gentleman showed me, I want to say Bayou Teche or somewhere toward that way. Somewhere toward New Iberia. Out of Baldwin. I put it in Baldwin. People didn't know that. And I found a couple of creeks and caught some really pretty fish in there, me and a good friend, Dale Landry. And then Tuesday, me and my brother go back to Shepherd's. We put in at 7:10. We finished fishing about 3:30. We caught 115 bass. I'm not exaggerating because we missed probably 25. Coming to the boat, they just fall off, average over 2 pounds. Brandon, it was unbelievable. But that's what and people need to check out Shepherd's. They could put in Shepherd's Lake, Shepherd's Pond, Stocker Pond. It's in Maurice, Louisiana. And I can tell you what, you owe it to yourself to go out there and check them out because I tell you, we had such a good time. The water had warmed up, Brandon. Fish had moved right up on. I'm catching buzzbait fish on December 27th. Buzzbait across the top of the water. It was like magic, man.
So the only place you didn't go fish was the Atchafalaya, right?
A little muddy, a little high, and I'm just not. It's just too muddy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you can catch fish in muddy water, but it was too muddy for me. And I didn't get a chance to go speck and red fishing. Captain Normal, we had a day, but there was 2 or 3 days I just couldn't. Mama had things to do. What was that? Took the general manager to Shucks. Did he get in here and tell you about Shucks?
Not yet.
I brought Mike Grimsley, and I'm not bringing him back. I mean, it's embarrassing to see what this guy can eat. He was enjoying himself. Not to mention his bride, but he was really enjoying himself. All right, I'd like to cover, folks. Jeff Landry's in the news. Obama's in the news. Yes, a lot of people in the news. And if they're not in the news, we'll put them in the news. We'll take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Happy New Year 2017. Off and running. 844-766-6607. Hickson Has It hotline. HicksonHasIt.com. All right, we're joined by a state treasurer. I think he's still a state treasurer unless he's resigned, but I know he's getting ready to be the next United States Senator from the great state of Louisiana, John Kennedy. I don't know what to call you right now. Can I call you John Kennedy now because you're not the treasurer anymore?
I'm unemployed, man. I resigned yesterday at 11 o'clock. Mr. Ron Henson is my first assistant, is the new treasurer of the great state of Louisiana, but I'm about to be sworn in about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We've got a meeting of what's called the Republican Conference of the Senate. Basically, it's just all the Republican senators. And then at noon, I'm sworn in. So I'm a cross between humbled and happy.
Yeah,
I'm just so excited.
I knew you had to resign. I didn't realize you did it yesterday. But first of all, congratulations, John. I know this is what you wanted. This is not the first time you ran, but you give a lot of hope to people. And this is not just running for office. This is anything. You try again, and this time was the charm.
Well, Moon, we're going to hit the ground running. I mean, in the first 6 months, I think you're going to see the United States Senate, if I have anything to do with it. We're going to tackle things like Obamacare. We're going to get rid of it. We're going to get started on tax reform. And when I talk about tax reform, I'm talking about lowering taxes. We're going to get rid of some of these regulations that are strangling our business people and keeping them from creating jobs. I expect President-elect Trump to make an appointment to, or at least not a nomination to the United States Supreme Court, which may be one of the most important actions he takes.
Sure.
I'm happy. I have my committee assignments. I can't talk about them yet.
Sure.
I'll try to come on later this week and
talk
about them, but I am so happy with my assignments. They're going to be great committees from Louisiana.
Good. But we do want to hear back from you, John. Just maybe if your week's not too hectic, holler back at us maybe toward the end of the week. But, it's kind of bittersweet for me, John. I got as you know, we lost CB a year ago, and I mean, the exact day you being sworn in.
Thinking about him this morning, man. I wish, CB is out there looking down and saying, Kennedy, I will hold you accountable.
I got a feeling if you're having a bad day, you go, CB's probably who's going to pop in your mind. You're going to go, maybe he's talking to the man upstairs. Maybe I need to get my act together.
That's right.
Well,
man.
At least we're laughing about him in the good times.
Well,
that's good.
I know, man. I miss him every day, and I know you do too, man.
Oh yeah. Well, John,
but I'm excited. I'm not moving up here. I rented a little small apartment about a 5-minute walk away from what I think is going to be my office. We're in temporary quarters now. Sure. My home and my mortgage and my spouse and all my bills are still going to be in Louisiana.
Good.
And I'll be back often. And if you'll have me, I'll come on the show often.
Oh, no doubt about it. John, what is being that they swearing today, what does the week look like? And I know you hadn't been there yet, but does they have anything really going on right now? They wait for the new president to come in, or y'all got it?
Oh, no, they're going to get started. They're going to get started repealing Obamacare. I think we have the votes to do it in the Senate. We're going to get started. The president, of course, has nominated cabinet posts, and we'll start hearings on those cabinet nominations. I don't know where we are. I'll find out a little more in about 35 minutes about what's going to happen in terms of the tax reform. I know in terms of regulations, they're There are things the United States Senate can do, but there are things that President-elect Trump can do immediately in terms of rescinding executive orders. I know President Obama on week before last issued some new executive orders that are going to just be terrible for oil and gas, and I'm hoping and believe Mr. Trump will get rid of those immediately.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're going to a place that we hope we have real tax reform, which is lowering the tax brackets, but you're leaving the state of Louisiana where they want to increase taxes. Do you think something like, I know, John, you're leaving to go up there, but do you think something like that's going to actually pass here? I mean, I don't see how it passes.
Well, Moon, as I said, election night, there really aren't state issues or federal issues. There are only issues today because state and federal government issues overlap, and I'm going to be very involved in issues in Louisiana.
Good.
Governor Edwards has determined to do what he calls tax reform. Tax reform here for him is a tax increase.
Yep.
They just did the largest tax increase in Louisiana's history. We now have the largest budget in Louisiana's history, and they still don't have enough money, they say, and the reason is simple, because they keep spending more than they bring in.
Yeah.
And what he's proposing to do will wreck the economy in Louisiana.
You know, it's amazing.
And I'm hoping that the Republicans in the House and especially in the Senate will stand up to him and say, Governor, we don't have a revenue problem. We've got a spending problem. People want discipline. They don't want tax increase.
You know, John, you won an election. You won in a landslide talking about we're spending too much money. Everybody's getting mad at you for telling the truth. But yet your message was, if people look at who voted for you, 61%. I mean, holy cow, they're saying John's message resonates. And I only got a few seconds left, John.
Well, it's the truth. I never thought I would see a $20+ billion budget for the state of Louisiana, and it gets bigger every year. And we've got to do something about it.
John Kennedy, a regular citizen, getting ready to be Senator John Kennedy. John, God bless. We wish you the best of luck, my brother.
Happy New Year to everybody.
All righty. Thank you very much. We may hear from the latter part of the week. Let's take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. I never did get to Brandon about Clemson, Alabama. We may hold that to the end. Jim Beam out there with budget craziness again. John Kennedy just brought it up. I appreciate John calling in. We got Obama news, Trump news. Jeff Landry getting slapped in the press again. If Jeff breathes more than 3 times an hour, they're going to pop him in the mouth. New Orleans is becoming just a rough place. I'm not down in New Orleans. It just is. And Chicago, man, the killings during the holidays, phenomenal. You don't see Black Lives Matter protesting over there, do you? So we got all that stuff as a program. And then a nut that was a journalist talks about how the Electoral College is stealing his vote. I read you. A retired journalist. This cat was able to be this all of his life. And shows how the left is the left. You don't worry about facts. You just lie. Just put out any information you can grab that goes against the truth. And that's what's with the left. Anyway, got a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, 844-766-6607. David, somewhere in North Louisiana. David, how you doing?
Doing well, Moon. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Happy New Year to you.
Yes, sir. Happy New Year.
I'm a geologist and have some comments about what I think is going to be the bright future next year here in Louisiana about oil and gas, and then also some comments about one of your favorite topics, global warming, climate change, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, you got to say it right. Man-made global warming. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, though.
This is where being a geologist helps. I began teaching geology in 1980 in Virginia and taught petroleum geology at Virginia State University. And, you know, one volcano, like the famous Krakatoa volcano, puts more carbon dioxide and other gases in the atmosphere than 1,000 Model Ts running all day long.
So, in other words, why don't they focus on clogging up volcanoes then? Because they can't.
Well, it's hard to pass a tax in Louisiana to shut down volcanoes in the western U.S. and
Good
all
point.
over the world.
Good point. Good point.
I guess the Louisiana politicians haven't figured out a way to tax it.
Don't give them no ideas because we're in tax reform this year, so please don't give them no ideas.
But I'll tell you some good news. If President Trump does half of what he says between now and June, I think that the old Delhi field up here in northern Louisiana and all the salt dome plays in South Louisiana, I think there's going to be a lot of oil and gas. What
Awesome.
do you hear talking to your people?
No, they got people gearing back up. Everybody's kind of hopeful, apprehensive a little bit because they don't really know, but they're very hopeful that things will change around in that industry. And I mean, a lot of hope, and they people ready to invest, ready to roll, but they want to make sure that when it gets up, it stays up. And so that's I think there's a lot of people very hopeful that the oil and gas will return to somewhere in the neighborhood of the 65, 75 range where people can start going back to work again.
Yeah. Over the years, I've heard you talk about all the colleges along I-20, ULM and all the rest. I tell you something that discourages me as a professional geologist. ULM no longer has a geology undergraduate major. Louisiana Tech no longer has a geology undergraduate major. Our grandchildren and our children could get some jobs in this industry if they could get a degree in geology.
Mm-hmm. Now it's getting interesting. Well, I guess with cutbacks through the years, a lot of the universities had to cut back on stuff, and I'm taking it that's what they did.
Oh, yeah. A lot of my friends at ULM that were geologists took retirement, moved to Texas. They didn't replace the old one, so they're with C.B. Fergusson in heaven now. So there's just one or two people teaching geology at Tech and at ULM. Don't you find that sad that the children could be getting jobs and they're not getting jobs?
Yeah. All right, David. Look, we got to run, brother. Appreciate the call. Take care, sir. Bo and okay, 844-766-6607. Hickson has that hotline. All right. John Kennedy made a point about tax reform on a national level, but Brandon, it's coming at us in droves. I will be keeping up with the voting records for these Republicans that vote for this crazy highway tax and this crazy tax reform. They keep talking about they're going to lower the penny sales tax. Brandon, they just raised it from 4 to 5 cents, so they're going to lower it to 4. You see what they do? Oh, it's at 5. We're going to lower it for you. Well, you just raised it. So, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Kennedy, highest amount of money ever in the budget, ever. Biggest tax increases ever. And we still have the budget problems. And John, once again, this guy won. And I want y'all to remember this in 3 years when these little local reps and senators run on what Kennedy did, what he talked about. And he won a landslide victory over Bananas Foster. Could you imagine if I was interviewing Bananas Foster as United States Senate? Holy cow. And he won being tough. He won challenging the status quo. Record taxes is not enough for Bill Edwards. And some of these weak-minded wuss Republicans like John Alario who's a Republican name only, are going to try to slam a tax on us like you've never seen. Although we just raised taxes at the biggest increase in the history of the state. And it wasn't enough because we have a spending problem. Nobody's talking about this, folks. I'm talking about it earlier to let you know what's coming. And it can't pass if we, the people who have elected all these Republicans in the State House and Senate, will stay on their rear ends not to vote for these taxes. Especially, now look, you're going to have some term-limited people. They're not going to care. They really don't care what you think. But there's going to be a bunch of them that want to stay in office or run for another spot, and we need to hold it. If we do our job, there's no way for them to pass all these record taxes. Well, what about these temporary taxes? That's their fault. We told them not to do that. We have a spending problem and not going to address it. Jim Beam, God bless him. A man, Brandon, this guy used to be a pretty conservative writer. Challenged Edwards and all. He has fallen off the cliff. Now, I don't know how old Jim is now. Jim's been covering this stuff for longer than my age. 5 decades covering this stuff. And he's just become such a liberal. He told you to vote for Jade Arden. He tells you to vote for Scott Argel. He tells you. He's starting to call the Republicans 20 hardline Republicans the gang of no. I don't think they ought to be the gang of no. I think they need to be tougher than that. They need to be the gang of hell no. That's who these Republicans need to be. Not no, but boop, no. That's what they need to be. But see, Jim and them are so excited about Edwards. They really believe Edwards won the election when he didn't. He didn't win the election. And Jim Beam doesn't see that. He still thinks you ought to vote for Jay Darden and Scott Angel. And these people, they said these gang of no, and this is his story on Sunday, began the plotting against Edwards the night before he was sworn in office. And then they talk about Taylor Barra, a Republican Liberian. Taylor's on the hot seat for Republicans. He really is. And he needs to be on the hot seat. Mr. Barra needs to be the one that gets on the hot seat more than anybody because the House has to kill it. The Senate is led by John Alario. And the weak-minded Republicans in that Senate are the ones who will knife us. Because there's so many weak guys. If he paid Cortez is going to be the leading man up front for the gas tax because the buddies that give him his money, and I can give you the names, the ones that give him his money want the road tax because they're going to benefit from it. I can give you a bunch more names of these weak-minded Republicans in the Senate. So the House has to do their job. What is Jim Beam does the piling on of Jeff Landry? Landry, the GOP's choice to oppose Edwards. That's 2019, Brandon. That's 2 more years. Who knows who's going to run for that? Although Landry denies he's running, opposed the governor at every turn. He's opposed the governor, Mr. Beam, and he's won every court case against him. So that means he's right. That's all it means, is he's right. He's winning every one of them at the court deal. Then they go after Dore, who heads up the Republican Party. And anyway, then he starts quoting Jim Richardson, and all these people. But the tax wants to lower the tax rate, broaden items that are subject to sales tax, like cable TV, property repairs. Brandon, if you do anything on your property, they can put sales tax on it now. Similar services would have, sales tax. Brandon, this is the same deal Bobby Jindal tried. This is the same deal Bobby Jindal tried. They were going to lower our taxes, then broaden it on everything. CPAs, your account. If you get a tree service, they're going to tax that. Tax advertisement. This is what Jindal wanted to do. It's the same bogus plan that Bobby Jindal tried. Now, here comes Bell Edwards with the same bogus plan. We're going to tax everything that moves. And even the things that don't move. We're going to tax everything. More on tires when you change your tires out. More services. And that's crazy. But you do this when you have a spending problem and you don't want to admit it. Get rid of your excess itemized deductions, except for home mortgages and charitable giving. Get rid of all that. I mean, folks, this is Dan Juneau. I'm going to find Dan Juneau's article on why this was a bad idea. Anyway, we'll take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I'm telling you, I need it. All right. I think it's amazing, too. I'm getting ready to go to the phone lines. Michael, hold on. Rahm Emanuel, the godfather for Barack Obama in Chicago. After 8 years of Barack Obama in Chicago, what, they had 43 murders or shootings around Christmas? Oh, it was unbelievable. And it's the murder and shooting capital of the world now. Obama's home area. And Emanuel is reaching out to Donald Trump.
Well, Donald Trump has put out on Twitter
that he wants to help Chicago.
Yeah, he says he wants to help Chicago. He basically told Rahm Emanuel, he said, you've got all the killings and stuff going out of control in that area. Yeah. If you can't handle it, you need the federal government's help.
Well, and he said that. He said he wants the feds. And there's Obama, 8 years of doing nothing helping inner cities. Absolutely nothing. Helping them to destroy themselves. And they had CNN put out a deal, Brandon. I was going through the TV channels the other day, and it said, it might have been Christmas Eve or something like that. The legacy of Barack Obama from 8 to 10. And I thought, puke city. If they ever vetted him before he got elected, he would have never won. If they'd have vetted him after his first 4 years, he'd have never won. This guy was so un-American. So, and people going to go down with his popularity in the 50s because they don't know. They don't want to know. Just go look at the inner cities. It's going to take Donald Trump going to help Chicago to clean up their crime rate, which Obama never lifted a finger. He just worries about votes. It's amazing to watch. The worst president ever. On economy. Matter of fact, there was a great article on that, by the way, about how if you compared to Reagan, you can't compare to Reagan. He's the only one that may leave with less than 3%, never hitting 3% growth in any quarters. He might average 1.55 by the time he gets out. And that's not the immoral things he's done. That's just the economy. You know, look at what they're putting a knife in Israel's back. I mean, think about that. He knifed Israel the other day. Just knifed him. Didn't vote with him, didn't help him, knifed him. It's an incredible thing to watch. But there's Trump reaching out to Chicago, saying the feds may have to come in and help that city. And the president of the United States, who, quote, is from there, never lifted a finger. Not one finger. It goes to show the hypocrisy of the whole thing. If people see, here's why the press and the Democrats won't say anything bad about Obama. It's called the black vote. Without the black vote coming out in big numbers, they have no chance of winning. So they had to let Obama, for 8 years, run this country, run the healthcare system, run the economy, run everything he touched, go make deals with Iran, for all people. Okay? Go make deals with Iran. Open the borders up to destroy this country, still letting them in. I mean, I can go on and on. I don't want to be a broken record, but I mean, that's all he's done. They can't say anything because the black vote, if it doesn't turn out for Democrats, they get smashed in every election. So they got to let him run around and say he's popular and, boy, he was great and good, and put him on TV because they know he's a community organizer, and that's all he has been. That's all he's ever going to be. But he set policies, and he set us back a bunch of years and everything. I mean, you can talk about the debt being run up by George Bush and run up 2.5 times the debt. Nobody say a word. Shh, it's Barack Obama. Don't say a word. I mean, not a word. It's just look at everything that he's touched. We're giving nuclear weapons and helping Iran build a nuclear weapon. He has set the Democrat Party back so many years, it's not even funny. And now they're talking about him. And Brandon, I don't think it'll happen. He put a Supreme Court justice in. He'll have a few minutes to do it. I don't think he would do that. But then again, nothing would surprise me. Nothing. But they can't riddle him. They can't rattle him. They can't go down on him because he'll just play the race card. Blacks don't go vote next time. Democrats get wiped out even more. So the press, the Democrat Party, who really know this man hurt them too bad, can't say one word. Youth of the day don't understand how bad this guy is. You know? Conservatives understand it. Americans really understand. People that voted for him understand it. But nobody's ever going to say anything because of the black vote. Look at Chicago. Donald Trump tweets out that he may take some federal help. And there's Rahm Emanuel, who's right there with Obama in the first election, who's as left as anybody, reaching out and saying, basically, he turned to Trump and said, come help me. But why didn't Obama help him? Because you see, folks, if everything goes south, they're not going to blame it on old Big O. No, he had nothing to do with it. And you see, running up debt causes inflation. And it's coming. All that stuff's going to come. Trump's going to have a rough time to change some things. I believe he's going to change some things. It's going to be for the good. But all the stuff Obama did, you remember when they first got in, they decided they're going to keep the interest rates down. That's not natural just to say you're going to keep interest rates down 8 years or 7 years before your term ends, and they did it. So anything that skyrockets up, they're going to blame Trump. When the one they should have blamed was Obama, but they should have got on him before he ever got elected. Didn't do it. So what are they doing? They're going to sit back and let Obama go out and, quote, be popular as his policy. Oh, I told you, the Venezuela, Cuba, he'd have been a great president for them, not for the United States of America. And that's what's coming. We're going to have to fight a lot of things. The race relationships, okay? Now, for me personally, no, they're no better or worse than they ever were because I respect every man, black or white. If I see a black man or a black woman that's older than me, it's yes, ma'am, It's yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, sirs. Still like that today because that's how I was taught. But for a lot of people, it's worse because of Barack Obama. They turn around and blame us. Well, y'all never did like him. We didn't like his policies. We don't like what he did, what he was doing to the country. This thing, what he's done at the borders, is downright immoral, sinful, and dangerous. What he's done at the borders, letting these people come across, bringing all these refugees over here. You know, if they're great Muslims, find a Muslim country, that's great. I guess that's kind of hard to find, and stick them over there. But they didn't ship them in here. So if things go sour, you know, the press is never going to cover that. They're going to blame Trump. They're going to blame Christians. They're going to blame Republicans. That's what they do. But if they really looked at who this Barack Obama fellow is, that he should have went out of here with about a 21% approval number. I just figure you got 20% of the country don't have a clue. That's what should happen in this country right now. I mean, just to look at this guy and not be about to cry. And like Brandon said off the air, Brandon, you don't mind me saying this, there's going to be some people celebrating come June 20th. Mm-hmm. Brandon said he think that's a Friday.
It is a Friday.
It'll be a whole weekend of celebration. Ain't no doubt about it. I just think it's amazing, simply amazing to watch what this guy's done to the country and the cleanup that we got to do. What they've done to the oil and gas industry and the energy cycle and this man-made global warming hoax. All the things that are so un-American and anti-American that he pushed, he's popular because people don't know. They've never been told. And a lot of people are waiting for somebody to tell them. That's amazing. All right, we're going to take a quick break. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. We'll take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Happy New Year, 2017. Off and running. We'll be back in just a few. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. If you'd like to be part of the program, it's an opportunity for you to be a voice. Check us out on Facebook at Moon Griffon. We're back up and running. Took a little bit of time off doing Facebook. My Facebook lady was real happy. She had to do nothing. Shouldn't have said that. She might wax me on the next post. Anyway, 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. I want to go back just for a second. Jim Beam's piece. We kind of got carried away a little bit. I can do that from time to time. He quotes all these so-called experts, and we had this tax committee that really has come up with way more ways to tax you. The rates they're talking about dropping is nothing compared to the deductions they're talking about taking away. And you got to remember, they want to do so many things so much, so you think, boy, I got to break over here. But overall, tax reform is made to increase taxes. That never should happen, ever. Because they want to do that because they don't want you to be, they want you to kind of be surprised and not even understand why, with your taxes. They just want to take more money out of your pocket because they think state government is more important than your family. One of the things that Jim Beam doesn't mention in his supposedly great article is that Jim doesn't talk about what the economy is doing right now, which I think you have to weigh into any situation. What is the economy doing right now? And our economy has struggled. Now, if you live in Lake Charles or Baton Rouge, some of those areas have done pretty good, but overall, our economy has struggled. So the worst thing you could do is tax us more. Tax more things that we use, like services. And this is what they're talking about doing, to get rid of your deductions, except for your home mortgage and your charitable giving. There will be no more deductions. You won't be able to write any things off on your federal taxes anymore. They want to take everything away from you is what they want to do, and they want to give it to the state. Because they're not going to make any adjustments in education. They're just not. This is all about taking more of your money. And I got a feeling the Senate in the state legislature, led by one John Alario, who's never fixed a problem in his life, will pass all the taxes they want. Record taxes last year. If you add that with generals last year, $2.5 billion in new taxes, it's not enough, and a lot of it's temporary. They want to do the same thing the Stelly bill did. This is Stelly on steroids, by the way. They want to take it and then all of a sudden take temporary taxes and making them permanent on you and me. Folks, we I don't know if, Brandon, I think before I left, didn't we read, one of them was saying we're in a recession here now, a little bit of a recession because of what's going on. And if it's not a recession, it's close. And our income's not keeping up. Why would you want to tax people who don't have a job or tax people who have a job but not making the money they were making? It doesn't make any sense at all that we're having this discussion, but it's a big discussion this year. I don't care if it's Jim Richardson or anybody else you want to name. They're wrong. And I'm here to tell you they're wrong. And Kennedy said that a while ago. He said, when you got a spending problem and you don't want to focus on the spending problem, you're not going to fix the problem. How can you have $2.7 or $2.8 billion in the budget now? And Brandon, it's not enough. It's not enough. No, I'm sorry. My bad, Brandon. $27 or $28 billion. My bad. And it's not enough. Record money coming in. And we run in deficits. Why? Spending problem. And yet, you've got to remember, folks, the people we're going to hold accountable for this are going to be Republicans. And they're the ones. And then there's Jim Beam. He doesn't write about spending. And then he tells you things that are not true. And this is where I miss CB. Okay? Because one of the things he writes in here is the task force explained why spending cuts are difficult in its summary of recommendations. See, difficult. But the difficult things are the things we need to do to make it right. So we're not going to deal with the difficulty. Much of what the state spends each year is constitutionally and statutorily dedicated as a substantial portion of the budget. Statutory dedication means nothing. Statutory dedication can be changed with a vote. Number two, what's constitutionally protected is constitutionally protected. But you got to remember, folks, there's two different. There's the general budget, and then there's the budget with fees and the things of that nature. It's two different budgets. One of them, all of it can be touched. They keep saying this, and C.B. Ferguson, God bless him, C.B. used to laugh when they said this because it can be touched. What do you think they're doing every time they get in the budget hole? They go after education and health care. Is the budget not being touched? We got a priority problem, we got a spending problem, and they don't want to address it. I'm going to deal with it and have to deal with it most of the year because somebody has to fight this stuff. Idiotic for us to raise these kind of taxes on people who have been struggling with floods and economy and oil and gas industry. You know what's sad? If they can get record taxes, think about this. They get record taxes and it goes up even higher to even a bigger budget for them, and then all industry gets back on its feet, Brandon. And all of a sudden, the state is raking in billions of dollars more, hundreds of millions of billions, whatever, of more money in. Not only will they have all the new taxes on us, here comes this, and they're going to tell you, look what we've done. Look what we've done when they didn't do the hard choices. He said right here that cutting spending was tough. The task force explained why spending cuts are difficult in its summary of recommendations. Exactly. We know they're difficult, but you have to leaders make difficult decisions. Jim Beam's admitting the ignorance of the article. He's admitting the ignorance of what we're trying to do in the state. Well, yeah, spending cuts are tough. No crap. That's real good, Jim. I'm glad you told me. I'd have never guessed that. Spending cuts are tough. Well, why do we overspend? Which would, if we didn't overspend, spending cuts wouldn't be tough because we wouldn't overspend, Jim. Mr. Beam, think about that. Spending cuts are tough, but we overspent. Brandon, if you and your wife had 4 car notes and a house note and a boat note and a little cabin on the beach and you couldn't pay your bills, you would think you could look at me and say, Moon, it's just hard to cut this spending. Yeah. Just think, I said, Brandon, I can help you out on your finances. Brandon goes, it's just hard to cut the spending. I mean, this is what we're spending. Yeah, but you're overspending, Brandon. Well, we don't look at it that way, Moon. We like our 4 car notes and our house note, 2 house notes and boat note. But Brandon, you got to make some tough decisions, Como. You got to make some tough decisions, and the decision's very simple. You got to come up with more revenue to enjoy your overspending, or you got to cut spending. Now, Brandon, I mean, you look at me and you go, I ain't cutting my spending. Well, guess what? You better come up with a new way to do revenue, and that's what they're doing here. It's not a matter of overspending because Jim Beam won't talk about that. He's been covering for 50 years. Now I'm wondering if he's been covering it for 1 year because the way he's writing this stuff and the advocates writing this stuff and the people are talking about it, they act like, well, We know we have a spending problem. Let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about how we can. This is about ways to keep spending exactly like they are. So when I read Jim Beam go, the task force explain why spending cuts are difficult. Well, they ought to be. Brandon, wouldn't that be difficult for you, Brandon? You just don't want to cut spending. Y'all like going to the beach house 2 months a year. You know? You like having a truck and a car and your wife having a 2 different type vehicles. And you like having the big boat note. And you like having all that stuff. So the state, but Brandon, for you to do it, it'd be tough. You go, okay, what am I going to give up here? I'm going to have to give up something. They don't want to give up the spending, folks. That's the problem. And yet, I read Jim Beam, who told you, by the way, to vote for Scott Angel and Jay Darden, showing where his, and he keeps thinking Bill Edwards won, which he's wrong on that too. So, folks, your task force explain why spending cuts are difficult in a summary of recommendations. Yeah, if you don't want to quit spending, it probably is pretty tough. But we need that. We need tough. Tough is not raising taxes. Tough is not bringing more revenue. If I tell Brandon, you know what? I got a $100,000 Visa gift card, and you can have this right here and just go sign it at the bank. And Brandon, you run up another $100,000 worth of debt, you can keep all that stuff. But someday you're gonna have to pay for it, and that's where we are in this state. The revenue's not rolling in, the jobs are not there, the economy's not doing good, and the answer is to raise taxes on businesses and services, which is ludicrous. I mean, this folks. If we allow these Republicans, it can listen to this real quick. This cannot happen without weak, wimp, yellow spine Republicans voting with the left and going with the press. Can't happen. They didn't fix roads. We want a new road tax, 26 cents a gallon, Brandon. That's hoping they can get a nickel. But they never tell us where they spent money on. What was the priority on roads the first time? This is what's coming at us this year, folks, and it's right around the corner. They're talking about calling a special session just for more taxes. This governor has lost his mind. Jim Beam lost everything. We got to take a break. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. We'll be right back. Donald Trump. You know, and Donald Trump also came out and said if GM is going to build their plants in other places, they're going to pay a tax coming back. And you know, some people get upset about that. I think you have to look at it this way. If Trump and the Republicans would do really tax reform, where they lower the rates, we're going to one of the highest in the industrial world taxes, then these companies may think twice. They'd really, really rather build here. Okay, they feel safer here, although, you know, what Obama's done, it doesn't feel as safe as it used to. And so Trump is basically saying, look, build here, but you got to have tax reform with corporations. And then you're going to hear the same old crap that you hear from the left. See, they give it to the rich. Rich people own things. They can buy things. They can invest. Okay? Ford is scrapping its plans for a new $1.6 billion plant in Mexico. Instead, invest $700 million in expansion in Flat Rock, Michigan plant. You didn't see that when President Obama was the president. And by the way, yeah, he's still a president. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The bottom line is Trump's trying to bring back businesses where people can go to work. That's why Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and all them turned against Obama and the Democrats. It's telling GM, no. You're not going to build and send things back here. You're going to build here, or we're going to tax you. You know, there's some people who disagree with that. But I got to like the idea, but they have to do something with tax reform. But see, they got to do something in tax reform totally opposite of what the state of Louisiana is going to do. They're going to try to lower some rates. And as business picks up, they'll get more taxes into the treasury like Ronald Reagan did. But you can't spend it all. They spend it all. In Baton Rouge, they're trying to do the same thing, except, I mean, we're having the same problems, except they're really trying to raise taxes on businesses and services and things of that nature. And so they're going to do opposite of what the federal government's going to do. You heard John Kennedy talk about that. So I'm just letting you know that what the state's getting ready to do is opposite of what the federal government's going to do. Also, Trump and them are looking at records on border barriers and surveillance. 220 illegal kids per day unleashed in November under Barack Obama. That we got to take care of now. We don't have to. That we got to spend money on that we don't have money to spend on. Republicans prime for push to dismantle Obama policies. Well, there need to be. Obamacare unlikely to die a swift death. Brandon, one of the problems with that is kind of like, you know how we elect a new sheriff? And the sheriff's elected in November, but he doesn't take over until July 1st of the next year. It worked like that here. I know it worked like that in Washita Parish. I'm taking it. That's how it works everywhere. The transition is tough. The transition in Obamacare will be tough because we got people that are depending on Obamacare now because they're getting these subsidies. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it can't be overnight, but it needs to be close to overnight as they possibly can. If it just they've screwed that thing up so bad, they got to go in there and see what's all screwed up. That thing, Obamacare is a screw up from hell.
Well, and here's House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy talking about the process of eliminating Obamacare, saying it's beginning soon.
We'll start taking up the budget first in the Senate for 2017. The repeal process would probably go through the mechanism of a reconciliation ability to be able to do it. That takes fewer votes inside the Senate.
And then he says there's two ways that Obamacare, a replacement for it, will come in.
You'll either have a transition period when the replace comes in, or you could have an element of it already replaced with more coming forward.
Okay. So their plans are to do something. I just don't know how quick, Brandon, they're going to get that done. My goal is they get it done really quick because it's killing people like me. I mean, I don't think, and I was told this when I went in. Remember I told you my policy was $39,000 this year. I got it down to a whopping $32,000. That's my premium this year. Divide that 20, it's 20, Brandon, let me tell you, just to be exact, say somebody won't get funny with me. It's $2,654 a month. Okay? $31,848. I'm sorry, I exaggerated by a whopping $152. I apologize. It's $31,848. Still ain't. My buddy in Lake Charles, Rob, I hope you're listening. Every time these leftists call me about Obamacare, they never call and ask me how I'm going to pay for mine. They never volunteer how they're going to pay. All they do is tell me about these people. They got all these subsidies, and I'm paying for the subsidies. So they're going, and I was told by my insurance agent, said, Moon, you know, people in individual policies like you, said, I mean, they're getting ready to get run out of Dodge. Well, guess what? I've arrived. So what I'm supposed to do, I was doing fine before Obama came along. I got a special need kid that I was able to take care of by myself. Okay, me and my bride. And now Obamacare comes along and puts a knife to my throat. But nobody cares about me. They just care about the person over there. Well, you got insurance for the first time. Good for them, but I'm going to lose mine. They don't tell me how I'm going to pay for mine. I don't get subsidies. Incredible. 31,000, what I tell you, 848? Not quite 32,000, but it was over 39. I'm not going to tell you how high my deductibles are. I'll never reach it. We'll take a break. Be right back. Hi, hello. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has that hotline. I do want to mention you folks that are in the Lafayette area on Wednesday, which is tomorrow night. Everybody in this building thinks today's Monday. I didn't talking to them. Well,
except me, I worked Monday.
I know, but I know to you it was a regular day, but everybody else that didn't work thinks tomorrow's Tuesday, and it's not. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I'll be at the Bayou Church. I'll be the speaker for the men's night, 6:30 to 7:30. Going to feed Dino's Pizza. It's a heap good time. They have the first Wednesday of every month. They have a deal. All people are invited. You don't have to be a member of the church. And I'll be throwing out all my watch tomorrow night as I'll be the guest speaker there. Looking forward to visiting. There's a great group, and they do a wonderful job. You are invited. Come on, they'll feed you. If you just happen to be a bigger group, just make sure you let them know. All righty, 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. Brandon, right out of my mouth, I said Obama's out there telling people how great things are. And he's bragging about a remarkable progress. He said there's the worst economy he tweeted out facing the worst financial crisis in 80 years. You delivered the longest streak of job growth in our history. Brandon, $10 trillion in new debt. Take the $10 trillion out and add $1 trillion. What did he deliver? See, but the press is not going to write about this. He neglects to mention the weakest economic recovery in American history following the recession. Not to mention 15 more million people not working. He tweeted after, and this is the one I love the best, Brandon. I just told you about my health care. After decades of rising health care costs, today nearly every American now has access to financial security of affordable health care. How many of you people would like to pay my $31,840 $8 a health care a year? And I'm not exaggerating by a penny. But this guy says it's affordable. I mean, I'd love to sit across the table and explain this to me, Mr. President. I mean, it's insanity. Massive bust. And Medicaid is the only thing that's grown, and doctors are dropping that left and right. He said we traded foreign oil for clean energy and doubled our fuel efficiency standards, acting on a global scale to save the one planet we've got. Oh, my God. Nothing to do with Obama's policies. The dropping prices of oil worldwide, as well as fracking industry, which helped fill the gap domestically, brought home more troops. He's bragging about bringing home more troops to strengthen U.S. leadership. Syria in flames, Libya in flames. I mean, it's just a joke. I mean, look at Iran, all these places, Iraq, war zones. I mean, left and right. Then he says, from realizing marriage equality to removing barriers to opportunity, we made history in our work to reaffirm that we are created equally. Supreme Court declared same-sex marriage constitutional over the will of the people. And now boys and men can go in girls' bathrooms. I mean, but the press never holds him. They never held him accountable on anything. Nothing. And he's the president of the United States, and they still on it. And Democrats can't say a word. By the way, the Democrats, Brandon, wait till, this is going to be the fun stuff. I say fun. Wait till Trump starts trying to push his his picks, his cabinet picks, through. Watch the Democrats nut up. And here's what they're going to do. Mark Morial, who was the great mayor of New Orleans, he's in one of these organizations. It's a racial organization. And they're already jumping about Sessions and stuff he said back in the 60s, in the 70s, Brandon. This is the 21st century. We've moved on so far beyond that. Why? They got to grab race. The biggest race baiter. The person that's disturbed racial trends in this country, the worst that it's been in the last 40 years, is Barack Obama. I mean, it's just sinful what they've done. But anyway, Mark Morial has already put out a deal on Sessions, how he's not acceptable as Attorney General. The good news is, Brandon, is the Republicans need to man up and put him as Attorney General. Okay? No matter who they put there. It can be Ted Cruz, whoever. They're going to trip out. They're going to nut up. That's what they do. And there's only one thing in the playbook, and that's to run after race. So we got an interesting year. I'm still hoping and praying Trump will be the guy by January 20th. It's not a conspiracy thing with me. It's just I just don't trust this guy. It's just got big problems with him. From day one. It had nothing to do with the color of his skin. Could be my daddy. If my daddy thought and acted like him, I'd have doubts about my dad. Louisiana drivers ranked worst in the nation. By the way, I had helped. I probably helped those situations. New study ranks Louisiana drivers some of the worst in the country. Study by CarInsuranceComparison.com. We do pay high insurance here. Louisiana ranks one of the 10 worst in 5 categories, including failure to obey traffic signals, seatbelt usage, and drunk driving. The best we did was 30th. It was in speeding, oddly enough, we were 30th worst. So, anyway. Whew, not a good thing you want to be ahead of. Let's go to Mike in Alexandria. Mike, how you doing?
Hey, bud.
Good to hear
I'm
from
your buddy that comes to see you at Hickson.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, I remember.
You know, I was listening to you talk about big oil, and of course, we all want the oil industry to come back, but it's going to be tough, man. These cars get way better fuel mileage. The Middle East is pumping out more oil to keep the prices down, and I don't see where it can ever come back the way it was, and I don't think it's Barack Obama's fault that oil is cheap. It wasn't his fault when it was high.
I'm not blaming anybody's fault. I just know this, that we need to depend on ourselves a lot more than we do when it comes to energy. And if we did, we wouldn't worry about the price of it overseas as much. But you got to remember, it's a commodity that's traded on a stock exchange now. It used to not be like that. So we're going to be at the whim either way, but I just think the United States of America needs to depend on ourselves and not go get it from overseas as much as we do. And I think we're getting to the point with technology we can do that. Now, as far as the price of it and all that, I think it doesn't have to be back at $100. Okay? I think if it was back on an average of $65 to $75, the industry can smoothly get back in business. It can smoothly have a lot of people employed. Prices can be high enough to keep them in business, but us not to depend on what happens in the Middle East, which is just a bunch of crackpots.
Oh, I agree.
That's all. I'm not saying back. Listen, and people in the oil and gas industry may want to earn $40 a barrel. I don't, but I don't want it at 40 either. So, it's got to be some kind of way there's an equal deal that people can get back into business and go to work. That industry has helped us so much. And between that and being 40, 30, and 40 and $50 a barrel as well. So, that's what my hope is, Mike. As far as it coming back like it was, even people in the industry is not saying that. They're not saying it's coming back like that. No, but they're hoping to get back rolling a little bit. You let it get $65, $70 a barrel, you're going to see a lot of movement in that industry. You're going to say, I know we're going to pay a little bit more at the pump, but I want to be self-sufficient. And for us to do that, we need that industry, and we need natural gas industry and using everything that we can, the coal industry. We need all that. This stuff about, look, nothing wrong with solar. I have no problem with solar. But what I'm saying is I don't think solar is going to – I know, but I don't think solar is going to put us on the map. I think there are other ones, the oil and gas industry will.
Oh, yeah. And one more thing, man. So how I'm looking at Trump's agenda, and hey, I didn't support him, but it is what it is. And I just know he's going to have to get with the left if he wants to help poor people in Alabama who supported him, poor people in Georgia who supported him, poor people in Louisiana who support him. Because I don't think the right's going to want to help those people, and I don't think lowering taxes for the rich is going to help Boudreaux here in South Louisiana.
Well, here's the.
I think that Trump's going to have to get with the left.
Let me tell you something though. Here's where me and you disagree. I don't think anybody ought to help anybody. I think you ought to help your dang self. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's how we're going to make it better. I'm 55 years old. I'm going to work a while longer. I'm going to help myself. But here's what you can't do. You can't set the rules up against all the working people. Somebody that's poor will go get an education, and it doesn't have to be a college education, and work hard. I know poor people that come from nothing worth a lot now. I just don't think you can have – the Democrats want to give everything away, and you can't. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Anyway, I got to run. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the call. I will agree with them. I'm not saying oil and gas come back $140 a barrel. I didn't say that.
Well, can I say this? I may not be a Boudreaux, but I'm a Como.
That's close enough.
And as a Como, getting penalized with more taxes just because I make a little bit more than I did the previous year is just wrong.
Absolutely, but that Brandon, that's what's taking place. The working guy like you, and I know how many hours you work.
I am not the rich when it comes to money. I may be rich in a lot of other areas, but when it comes to money, I am not one of the rich.
I'm not the wealthy one either.
Man, getting pounded for making more, that's just ridiculous.
It's ludicrous. All right, appreciate the call. We'll take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Happy New Year. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Happy New Year. 2017 cranking up. And a lot to cover, folks. A lot will happen this year. And we'll stay on top of everything we possibly can. It's just, it's amazing all the stuff that's out there. 844-766-6607. Hickson has that hotline if you'd like to be part of the program. And by the way, these taxes they want to raise, that's on top of all. If all this keeps edging up, easing up, they'll get more money off of that too. Then they'll have all your money, more money from the oil and gas industry. And keep on revving it up, baby. All right, let's go King Abbeville. Mr. Brown, how you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing great. It's a new year. The Cowboys are 13-3. They have home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
You know what? By the way, let me just say this. I'm happy for you because you've been calling this program for about 10 years, and I ain't heard you say that in a long time.
it has been.
Well, actually, no, let's back up.
For 20 years.
Let's back up, though. The year Romo had the good year in against Green Bay, and I thought Dez personally caught the ball, but they didn't give it to him. They would have got in there. They had a chance to go to the Super Bowl that year. And I thought instant replay hurt them. So they did have a chance, and then Romo's been hurt since, but I think y'all got your quarterback now for the future.
I think we do. I hate to say it. I'm a Romo guy, but we're going to have to ride with Dak. But look, on these taxes and everything, I guarantee you, Moon, much like you can't find anybody that voted for Obama, you're not going to find anybody in Louisiana that voted for John Bel Edwards. Not only is he raising sales tax, raising this tax, don't forget they're going to sue the oil companies to pay for coastal erosion. And your last caller there, Moon, I don't know if it's willful ignorance or sheer ignorance, but these liberals always give themselves away when they start talking about tax cuts for the rich. You know what? Tax cuts across the board are good for everybody.
Yep.
I'm not rich, and I would love to have a tax cut. Because I tell you the truth, I'm tired of paying 35% of what I make to the federal government to give to people who don't work now.
Well, it's actually
the only people.
It's actually worse than that. If you're paying 35% to the feds, and then you're paying 10%, 11% on sales tax, and then you're paying property taxes, we don't realize how many taxes are in the things we purchase. Like example. John Bel Edwards wants to bring up the Bobby Jindal tax increase. Tax and services. Somebody comes to your property to remove trees. Somebody comes cut grass at your house. All that stuff is just going to tax people that much more. It's just crazy, man. But that's what they want to do. They say, well, we're going to lower your taxes. No, they're not. If Jim Beam even right, they want to stabilize the government. We gave them $2.5 billion over the last 2 years, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't even close.
Well, once again, and you said it, I said it, we said it till we're blue in the face, they never talk about cutting government spending. All they talk about is they have a revenue problem. They don't have a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. You know what? Tie a few of these four-year universities to a tree and whack them in the head with a hammer. We don't need them.
Check this out.
Some of the government employees. We don't need all these government employees.
The reason they won't do spending cuts, and let me quote Jim Beam, who I don't know when he fell off the truck, but he did. The task force. Now, this is Jim Richardson. By the way, Jay Darden was on this task force, and John Alario was on this task force. The task force explained
that ought to give you some clue right there as to what's going on.
But watch that. We know spending is tough to cut, but if you don't overspend, it's not as tough to cut. Okay, check this out. The task force explained why suspending cuts are difficult. Well, I bet they are. If you didn't bought everything under the sun, you can't pay for it. And you don't want to get rid of it, spending cuts become a problem.
Well, it's just the same old, same old. It's the same cycle we keep repeating, though. We keep electing people that we know. You and I screamed to the top of our lungs about John Bel Edwards. He was a tax and spend, ball-headed, baby-killing liberal, and now Louisiana's made themselves look even more foolish in the eyes of the rest of the nation by electing a tax-raising, baby-killing, bald-headed, goofy-looking liberal that's trying to tell us on one hand, I'm doing good for you, but I'm going to stick it in you and turn the knife a little bit more to the working man in Louisiana until they completely drive all industry out. The oil and gas industry will pick up and move to Houston. They'll go to Mississippi where it's tax-friendly. They're not going to stay here in Louisiana and get the screws put to them over coastal erosion when Louisiana has had their hands out raking in the billions and billions of dollars that have come in from the oil and gas industry. Where was the state of Louisiana screaming about coastal erosion, when everything was booming and we were making billions of dollars?
Because they didn't do that, because they're screaming about it now because federal government's been footing the bill and getting more money. It's all about more money. Look, I just read it to you. this council, this great task force, said, explain why spending cuts are difficult in a summary of recommendations. Just difficult. Why? Well, you're overspending, and you don't want to quit spending, so you don't even look at spending cuts. That's why it's difficult. You want to keep doing what you've been doing, and all it takes is more money, and that's the problem. Brian, got to go, man. Good luck to the Cowboys.
All right, Moon.
All right, man.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it. One thing about him now, he's been sticking with his Cowboys, no matter what.
Cowboys.
Yeah, all the way through that 3-win season they had last year. Cool. Or was it 4? Let's go to – actually, I think they got a great shot to make the Super Bowl. It'd be fun to watch them back in the Super Bowl. But I got a feeling Brady –
not me.
I got a feeling that Brady and them will beat them in the Super Bowl.
If I get my dream Super Bowl, it would be Green Bay versus Kansas City. Dream with the teams that are left. Not,
I don't see how they beating Brady.
I know.
That dude's good. I'm not a gigantic fan of him, but he's as good as anybody that's ever played. He's really good. Let's go to
He's
Carl.
got a phenomenal team around him too, Moon.
But I know he does. But let me tell you something: 29 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions,
28-2.
I missed it by 1. All right, at least I didn't miss it on the interceptions.
Don't add on to it.
I thought it was 29-2. I really did. I thought he threw something the other day and it went to 29. My bad.
Okay.
Carl in Bro Bridge. Carl, how you doing?
Oh, I just wanted to wish the guest host today a Happy New Year. And I would like to see.
Man, you can't even let a brother take off.
No, but they got more, Moon. He's got more.
You know, if I could catch 100
listening audience, buddy.
If I could if I could catch 115 fish guaranteed to wherever I go, I would be a part-time show guy. But go ahead.
Well, this year, let's get off to a good track. Brandon's now no longer a newlywed, so let's see if we can't pass a little green into his wallet. Now that he's not a newlywed, he needs to start adding to the world population. Okay?
Oh, well, that's up to him. That's his business. I'm not getting involved in that. Thanks for the call. He didn't ask for any. By the way, that's the one thing he didn't ask marriage advice on.
No.
And I'm not giving him none on that. So you'd be happy to know that, Brandon. Man, I was called a guest host. By the way, Attorney General, this the headlines. Let's see, was this Times picking an advocate? Attorney General takes swing at New Orleans over violent crime and other local political news. Yeah, there's a lot of shootings going on down there, Brandon. It's not Chicago, but it's acting like it sometimes. And they keep saying no attorney general has ever done this because we've not had a Jeff Landry. Most of the attorney generals we had just go along to get along. They just go along to get along. Whatever you need, just reelect me next time. And Landry, instead of that, he's actually probably doing his job. Mitch Landry and them have not done their job. They've not done their job in New Orleans. They've just been reelected, and they go around and speak and enjoy themselves. They haven't fixed anything in New Orleans. They haven't fixed anything with the crime. And it's a sanctuary city. It's real curious to see what Trump does with sanctuary cities. If he takes the money from them, we'll see how many of them stay sanctuary cities. Because all those Democrat-held areas in big inner cities, they're all about the taxpayer dollars. And they vote Democrat, which is a losing proposition. Is why they're always about the taxpayer dollars, because they're never going to get better with that way of thinking. All right, we got to take a quick break. Hump day already tomorrow. See you then, folks. God bless.
It's always better to skip Mondays.